Hello and welcome to part 7 of the series on how to create a chess game with ReactJS. So in the last part we left off with moving the pieces. As you can see, we can move the white pawns forward, but we cannot move the black pawns yet. So this time we are going to work on the black pawns and we are going to try to make the pawns attack the other pawns. So to get started, we are going to open up our referee, and right here we see that we only check if the team is our team. We also want to check if it is not our team. Then we want to implement the enemy movement or the opponent movement. So we then want to check if it is on the special row. So for white, the special row is the first row. So we have 0, 1. So that's why it's the first row, well, row number 1. And for black, it's the 6th row. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we should check if the pawn is on the 6th row, like so. And if it is on this row, then we have a special movement. So we check if px equals x, so it's in the same column. And then we want to check if y minus py equals -1 or y minus py equals -2. So then we want to return true. And the reason why we say -1 instead of 1 is because if we subtract the py from y, so if we have our y right here and we move it to here, our y value will be 5, py will be 6, and if we say 5 minus 6, we get -1. So that's why for the black pieces we need a minus. So we say -1 and -2. And let's see. If we move a pawn, we see that it is not updating. So as you can see, it's still compiling right here. So if we move a pawn from here to here, we see that we can just slide it right there. And if we try to move 3 tiles, we see that it will get pushed back. If we move to the left or right, it will also get pushed back. And if we move with a pawn that has already moved, it is also getting pushed back. So to fix that, we can say right here, if px equals x and y minus py equals -1. So we only created the special statement right here for the 6th row, and now we have created the statement for the rest of the rows. So let's save it up, refresh the page, and if we move this, we'll see that we can move this forward and this as well. Now that we can move our pawns around, we can actually start by implementing the attacking functionality. And actually, before we are going to implement it, we want to make sure that we cannot pass through other pawns. So if we move our pawn forward, we shouldn't be able to do that because there is already a pawn on the tile where it wants to move. Another example is this. If we have a black pawn right here and we move our white pawn to here, we shouldn't be able to jump over it because this pawn is in the way. So to fix that, we are going to create a new function right here. We have our function isValidMove. We're going to say tileIsOccupied, and we want to know the tile, which will be x and y, and we want to know the board state. So, and we actually want to make this numbers, and the board state will be of type piece. So we say piece like so, and we actually want to import piece from our chessboard. And right now it will throw an error because our chessboard doesn't export that type yet. So here we have our interface, export interface piece. We can import it and we can use it right here. Nice. So now that we have our tileIsOccupied function, we want to see if it is logging anything. Checking if tileOccupied, so triple dots. And then we want to actually execute that function when we are going to move a piece. So right here, we are going to move a piece 1 or 2 tiles up. We want to check if the tile where we are going to move is being occupied. So right here, we're going to say if this.tile is occupied, and then we want to pass in x, y, and the board state. And as you can see, the board state is not a variable, or well, it is underlined with a red line. That's because we don't have the board state as a variable right here. So right here we say board state, which is of type piece. So, and then next what we want to do is we want to use this board state. And let's see, we also should make this a boolean, I think. Return a boolean. Yeah, so now the red line right here is gone. So what we want to do is right here we need to pass in the state of the board. So right now we don't have that, and to pass it in we just say value, because the value contains the actual board state. If we save this up, and let's see, right here we check if the tile is occupied. Let's check if we can get this console log. So we're going to open up our console right here. Let's move this piece, and as you can see, we are checking the move, checking if tile is occupied. Yeah, so the function is executing, so that's nice. But as you can see, when we move a black pawn here and to move in front of it, we just eat it, or well, we just sit on top of the black pawn, which is not what we want. So we actually want to say if tile is occupied, we don't want to return false, or actually better stated is if this tile is not occupied, then we want to return true, like so. I want to do the same for this one. Board state, like so. Then we also want to return true, like so. And now that we have this, we actually want to implement the logic for checking if the tile is occupied. So right here, we want to say const piece equals board state dot find, and then we want to loop through all the pieces and want to check if piece dot x equals to x and piece dot y equal to y. So then we have a piece, and then we want to check if this piece is null. So we want to say return piece is equal to null. So then right here, so instead of saying this, we can actually say if piece return true, else return false. So if the piece is actually a piece, then the tile is occupied, otherwise it is not occupied. Let's save this up and let's refresh the page. So let's see, if we move our piece up, we can still move it up. What if we move our black piece right here? We cannot move our white piece onto that tile. What if we move a black piece right here? We cannot move the white piece, which is good, but we can move it over it, and that's actually not what we want. So the reason why it is jumping over it is because right here we only check if, let's see, right here we only check if the tile where we want to move is occupied, but if we move two tiles, we only check the last tile and not the first tile. So to fix this, we can actually destruct this if statement. We can actually do the single tile in here, and then we just copy over the double tile and we put it in an else if statement, like so. And then we can just say that we want to check for this, and that we also, let's see, want to check if the tile underneath the first tile is also not occupied. So we say I or y minus 1, like so. So if we do it like so and save it up, we should see a correct movement. So let's try it out. Refresh the page, move this one to here. We cannot move on top, and we cannot move over it. Okay, nice. So this one can move, and this one can also move. So it's only the white piece where the black piece is in front of it, where it cannot move over it. So that's really nice. So before we are going to implement the attacking, we are going to apply the movement rules, which we created for the white pawns, for the black pawns as well. So right here, we actually have the black pawns movement, is this, because we are looking at the other team. So what we can actually do is we can copy over this code into here. So here we look at the 6th row, and we actually want to deconstruct this just as we did with the white pawns. So right here we check the x is equal to x, and then we want to say that we want to move 2 spaces, like so. And then right here we want to check if the tile is occupied. Then we want to return true, or well, if the tile is not occupied, then we want to return true. And here as well, if the tile is not occupied, and if the tile is not occupied, and then the x, y plus 1, board state, because we want to look one tile underneath it, so that will be plus 1, because we are looking from the position where it's going to move. So the position will be, for example, 4 of y value. If we add 1 to it, it will be 5, which will be this tile. And then we want to do the same for here. If this tile is occupied, x, y, board state, and I want to return true. So let's save it up, and let's try moving our black pieces. Let's refresh the page, and if we move our piece, we see that we can not move it in of the white piece, inside of the white piece, and if we move a white piece to here, we cannot move into it, and also not over it. That's really nice. Now we have the basic movement for the pawns, but we actually want to make the attacking movement for the pawns. So before we are actually going to do that, we are going to refactor our code a little bit, because it's getting a little bit big or bloated. So instead of checking if the team is ours or theirs, we are actually going to check only for the piece type, like so. If piece type equals pawn, then we want to create a variable for the special row. So const special row equals, and then what we want to do is we want to say if the team type is equal to our team, then the special row is on the first row, otherwise it's on the 6th row. So now that we have the special row, we can actually change this into the special row, and this as well. So we can, we can write this a little bit better. And then right here, let's see, we have the x value, which is the same as underneath here. And here we have y minus py equals 1. And here we have y minus py equals minus 1. So we need to create a variable which changes our team positive and their team into negative, since they move to the bottom and we move to the top. So we are going to say const pawn direction equals, and then we are again going to look if the team type is our team. If it is our team, we're going to say that the pawn direction is 1, which is positive, which means it's going to move up. Otherwise it will be minus 1, which means it's negative and it's going to move down. So what we can do then is we can say, we can just actually skip this if statement, since we wrote our special variables for there. We can say if px, or let's say, we can say if special row, actually we want to say if py equals special row, like so. So now we are in the 1 or the 6th row, the 1st or the 6th row. So if we are in a special row, then we want to check if px equal to x, let's just stay the same. And then we want to check if y minus py equals, and then we want to check for the pawn direction. So this will be 1 times the pawn direction, like so. And then we want to, if this tile is occupied, x, y, board state. So now we have this statement right here, or actually right here. Then we are going to create the else if. We actually also need to return true right here, like so. So here we are else if px equals x and y minus py equal to 2 times the pawn direction. So for our pawns it will be 2 times 1, which is 2, and for their pawns it will be 2 times minus 1, which will be minus 2. So that's why the pawn direction is really helpful. And then right here we can say if this tile is occupied, x, y, board state, and this tile is occupied, x, y, and then minus 1 right here, and right here we have plus 1, So we say minus the pawn direction, like so. And then let's see, we also need to pass in the board state. And then we want to return true as well. So now we have the first and the second statement, or those two. And then we need to do the third statement, which is not for a special row. So right here we say else. And we say if px equals x and y minus py equals, and then here we have 1. Let's see, right here we have minus 1. So we want to say equals pawn direction. So then we want to check if the tile is not occupied. And then we want to return true, like so. And what we can do right then is we can actually remove all of this code right here. So this is 58, it's something like 42 or 44 lines. And right now we have 21 lines, so it's almost 50% of what we first had. Let's save it up. Can we still move? Let's see, this can move, it can move. Cannot move that, that's good. Cannot move inside of it, also good. Cannot move over it. So as you can see, it's still working, and we have actually reduced the code by a lot. So one thing that is still bothering me is, first of all, this. We can just remove the 1 times pawn direction. And second thing is this. Let's see, if we copy over this, you see that the function underneath here is exactly the same as this. So as you can see, I'm copying it line for line, and we just copied over this. So this is redundant, we don't want that. So to fix that, we actually want to write it only once. So we are going to rewrite this one more time. So we are going to say if py is in a special row, and actually the only thing that is special about this row is that we can move a pawn 2 spaces. So why not check if we are trying to move the pawn 2 spaces inside of this if statement. So right here we say y minus py equals 2 times the pawn direction. So right here we have this, which is this one, and this, which is this one, in one statement. And that's actually pretty good, because this statement is the same as this. So what we can do then is we can say else if it is not on a special row. Then we just want to execute this. So let's see how this looks. We have our if statement right here, the first one, and right here we are trying to move it 2 spaces. So we're going to check for the first and the second tile by doing this, and otherwise we only need to check for the first tile. So we copy over this, and let's see, we also need to check for the x value. So right here we say px equal to x, and right here else if px is equal to x, and let's see, py minus, or y minus py is equal to the pawn direction, like so. Then we want to execute this. So let's see, we can actually remove this, I think. So this is, let's see, 24 lines, no, 20 lines, somewhat like that. And this is only 10 lines, 50% again. So as you can see, we've reduced a piece of code which was 50 lines to only 10 lines of code. And I think it looks more clear right now, because it is more clear on what's happening. So let's check if we can still correctly move. We can move 1, we can move 2. We cannot move through enemy pawns. We cannot move here and not over it. So actually we are still having a working solution, but just with less lines of code. So unfortunately, because we spent so much time on refactoring the code, we cannot implement the attack function in this part, but we have everything set and ready to go implemented in the next part, and we are having good quality code right here, which we can build on. So that's a good thing. And what we did do is we implemented the moving functionality for the black pieces, and we have implemented the functionality that we cannot move through or over pieces. So at least we did something. So I want to thank you for watching. I hope you could follow along. If you like, comment down below, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!